Multidisciplinary co-creation tools, process design, 6 thinking hats sequences. In this video, we are going to present one application of the 6 thinking hats method by Dr. Edouard de Bono. I am currently a certified 6 thinking hats instructor, and this is an overview of the 6 thinking hats. We can use the hats as process design tools. Here we present a set of process design components that you can use to design your process. You can use one component, or you can put together 2 or more components to set up a larger process. Let's start by showing one example. The example of an idea assessment process. We start with a blue hat that we use to launch the idea assessment. The sequence starts then having a white hat where we present facts and information about the idea that is about to be assessed. After the white hat, we have a yellow hat session. Here we make a list of all the benefits and positive aspects of this idea. When we finish with this list, we go over to black hat thinking to make another list of difficulties and weaknesses that this idea has. Having completed the yellow hat and black hat lists, we go over to a red hat, short red hat session, where we use our gut feeling to make a final assessment about the idea. Do we like it or not? And finally, we summarize and conclude our assessment. This is an example of a fixed sequence that is used to assess an idea. Now, before we go on, let's give some generic guidelines that we need to have when we use fixed sequences of the 6 thinking hats. First of all participants in the session have to use the same hat. We call this parallel thinking. Then we can use one and only one hat at a time. We have to follow the predefined sequence, and we have to assign an amount of minutes to each hat in the sequence. We start and we end always wearing a blue hat. Some time is necessary to deviate from the prefix sequence, but this requires experienced facilitation. Now let's see how we can organize shorter sequences that can be used as building blocks for a process design. The first one is a session in which we search for facts or information. These are the hats that we use. Now over to a new component, focusing. A focus session is characterized by this sequence. Here we have 2, even 3 blue hats after each other. Now sometimes it is necessary to include a white hat to search for facts and information that can help us to define our focus goal. It is important to have some more time also for some red hat thinking. So we call in if needed, when it is needed, only for a very short amount of seconds, maybe 30-40 seconds each time. Over to a new component, a new sequence for creative work sessions. Let's see how it is composed. The white hat could also be interesting sometimes between the first blue and the green. A new component, risk assessment. You might find this sequence useful. And finally, the example that we already had, an assessment or evaluation. So we can see how we can use these building blocks to create longer sequences and have more advanced process designs. This is a classic longer sequence used to solve problems. The components that are used here are the creative work session and the assessment session. Another interesting example is given by ICE sessions, Integrated Concurrent Engineering sessions. Here we find 4 steps in which we use several building blocks. Now the time allowed for each of these steps can vary from case to case and is part of the designer's decision. This kind of session also requires some training in order to be run smoothly. And then a final recommendation: the 3 steps toward a rational process design. When we design a thinking process, we always try to define the following in this sequence. First, we decide the content, which means our focus, our goal, what we will produce in this process. Then, secondly, we try to understand who we need to invite, depending on the competences that we need in the process. And only at this point, we go for the 3rd step, which is deciding how much time do we need. And here is a list of references.